In The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Hyrule takes place thousands of years after its creation, and throughout its time, many legends took place, all of tales of a chosen hero that would rise to seal the darkness that curses its land. Though throughout the many years, Hyrule has changed a lot, with now the kingdom being in a post-apocalyptic state after the Havoc Calamity Ganon struck 100 years prior to the start of the game. But throughout Hyrule's many changes, some structures have withstood the test of time and still stand in Hyrule today. With Breath of the Wild's Hyrule being the biggest yet, the game is full of Easter eggs that show locations from previous Zelda games that still reside today. So in this video, we'll be taking a look at all the locations that still exist in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And to start off, we have Lon Lon Ranch from Ocarina of Time. To find the remains of this ranch, you'll have to make your way to Central Hyrule to the ranch ruins. If you played Ocarina of Time, you should instantly recognize this ranch just from the sign. And as you enter, you'll recognize what's left of the track and the fences that were once there. Though in Ocarina of Time, surprisingly, the ranch did seem slightly bigger in scale, but you can truly tell that this is meant to be the exact ranch from Ocarina of Time. We can even race on the track that the Hero of Time once raced on to win Epona. The biggest difference between both games, aside from one being in a complete ruin, is the fact that in Breath of the Wild, there are no cliffs or fences surrounding the ranch itself. And I assume they only did that in Ocarina of Time to separate the ranch from the rest of Hyrule, as you had to load into the ranch, so the walls might not be a part of its structure, but just as something to separate the rest of the ranch from Hyrule Field. But it's crazy how even the small details like the two benches still somewhat remain within Hyrule. Even this small building that held a couple secrets still somewhat stands. I hope that cow escaped before it collapsed though. And out of all of the Easter eggs within the game, this is hands down the most nostalgic, with how accurate it is to Ocarina of Time's ranch. But Hyrule still has many structures that still stand today, so to the next. The Temple of Time from Ocarina of Time. To find this temple, it's not too hard to find, as the old man tells you where it is, and that's on the Great Plateau. The temple's exterior looks very identical to Ocarina of Time's, though its interior not so much, as the Temple of Time from Ocarina of Time once housed the Master Sword, which was blocked by the Gate of Time. But in Breath of the Wild, the gate has been removed, and replacing the Pedestal of Time is a goddess statue. And these changes could possibly be after the temple was rebuilt, as we do know it did break in Twilight Princess. But overall, it's still nice to see that the sacred temple still somewhat remains within Hyrule. Lost Woods from Ocarina of Time. The Lost Woods can be found at the entrance of the Great Hyrule Forest. Breath of the Wild's Lost Woods is nothing like Ocarina of Time's. In Ocarina of Time, you had to choose 3 different pathways while following the music to traverse its woods without getting lost. But in Breath of the Wild, this feeling of lost is much more alive in the game, as you traverse through actual woods, trying to get through without getting lost in the fog. With Breath of the Wild's woods leading you to Korok Forest, where resides the Great Deku Tree. As for the Great Deku Tree, in Ocarina of Time he resides in Kokiri Forest, which was also once known or probably turned into Korok Forest once the Kokiri reverted back to their true form. And the scale of the Great Deku Tree in both games are massive, but in Breath of the Wild, obviously is much bigger. When walking around it in Breath of the Wild, you can truly tell its massive scale compared to Ocarina of Time's. The Great Bridge of Hylia from Twilight Princess. The Bridge of Hylia is what bridges Lake Hylia. And in Breath of the Wild, the word great was removed from its name, but it's much bigger in Breath of the Wild. And with how different both Hyrules are structured, this could possibly be a different bridge entirely, or the same bridge but rebuilt and expanded upon, with even the remains of a fountain that was added within the center of the bridge. And if this is the exact same bridge, you can clearly tell that Lake Hylia's water has risen a lot throughout the years, with possibly what's left of Hylia Island being completely covered in water, as we can see what's left from the islands before they were flooded, and it really shows how much the water has risen when comparing the distance between the lake and the bridge. Hyrule Castle Town from Twilight Princess. Hyrule Castle Town can be found right outside Hyrule Castle in central Hyrule. Obviously, after the calamity, there's not really much left of the kingdom, but we can still get an idea of what it once looked like. And as soon as you enter it, you'll notice the similarities it has with Twilight Princess's Castle Town, especially with the giant water fountain in the center of the town where the 4 roads intersect, with the town having the exact same banners that were once in Twilight Princess's Castle Town. Hyrule Castle, on the other hand, resembles nothing of Twilight Princess's, though when approaching the castle they seem very alike, with both being in the center of Hyrule, surrounded by a moat. This could be the exact same ground Hyrule Castle was once on, but rebuilt or modified, as the kingdom has been around for over 10,000 years, so a remodel shouldn't be much of a surprise. The Sealed Temple from Skyward Sword. The Sealed Temple can be found near the Tabanta Tundra, known as the Forgotten Temple. Though the game says it's a Forgotten Temple, this temple was once known as the Sealed Temple in the sealed grounds within Skyward Sword. It houses the exact same statue of the goddess that was once atop Skyloft before it crashed down into Hyrule, with the platform in the center of the temple now having a shrine on it. And it makes sense in why this temple is known as the Forgotten Temple, because this temple existed before the establishment of Hyrule, with it having the exact same goddess statue that was once in the sky within Skyloft, with Link being able to stand atop the goddess statue's hands and jump off as he did in the wing ceremony, using Zelda's Silcloth like a paraglider. The Spring of Power from Skyward Sword. The Spring of Power can be located in the Akkala region north of the Akkala Highlands. Though it was known as the Earth Spring in Skyward Sword, the Spring of Power is the exact same spring from Skyward Sword. From the moment you'll enter it, you'll notice the spring is still intact, still looking very identical, and not much being destroyed. And out of the 3 springs, this is the only spring that resembles the exact one from Skyward Sword. At the end of each spring is a statue of the goddess, though in Breath of the Wild, the statue does seem a bit bigger. And this spring has been around for quite some time, before Hyrule was even established, as all of this was available in Skyward Sword. Arbiter's Grounds from Twilight Princess. You can find what's left of Arbiter's Grounds near the southern oasis in Gerudo Desert, and what's left of it is almost nothing. Whatever's left of Arbiter's Grounds is completely destroyed and covered with sand. There's really not much to compare with what's left of Arbiter's Grounds, but you can still kind of make out what was once there. Goron City from Ocarina of Time. Goron City can be found in the Eldin region near Death Mountain. Goron City in Breath of the Wild is nothing like the one from Ocarina of Time, as the whole city is outside, unlike in Ocarina of Times, where it's in a mountain. Clearly this is an entirely different city from Ocarina of Times, but shares the same name, as it is the city of the Gorons. And with the game scale being much bigger than any other Zelda game, Breath of the Wild's Goron City is much further than Death Mountain, as it once was in Ocarina of Time. Though Goron City's overall vibe and music still gives that feel as it once did in Ocarina of Time. And when comparing the Gorons and Death Mountain to Twilight Princess, there is little to no similarities. Zora's Domain from Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. Zora's Domain can be found in the Lanayru region near the East Reservoir Lake. As this domain isn't the same from previous titles, it still shares the name of Home of the Zora. And even though its structure is much different than we've seen before, it still shares similarities from its previous titles, such as the stairs leading to the royal throne, or a waterfall you're asked to perform a dive off of. Even the ladder used to climb back up to the domain, I can't help but think of Ocarina of Time. And comparing Breath of the Wild Zora's Domain to Twilight Princess, you'll also find a few similarities. And in both Breath of the Wild and Twilight Princess, the domain is located atop of a waterfall, unlike Ocarina of Time where it's located behind a waterfall, with all three domains being at the very end of Zora River. The Bridge of Eldin from Twilight Princess. The Bridge of Eldin can be found within the Eldin region near Death Mountain. Though they share the same name, they are completely different bridges. Though in Breath of the Wild, the Bridge of Eldin is much smaller this time around. So in Breath of the Wild, the Bridge of Eldin is the bridge to the mountain itself, unlike in Twilight Princess where it was the bridge to the province of Eldin, with Death Mountain being much further away. KAKARIKO Village from Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. KAKARIKO Village can be found in between the Lanayru and Necluda regions. And it's obvious straight from looking at it that none of these villages have ever been the same. They've always changed in every single game. Though similar to Ocarina of Time, KAKARIKO was once the home of the Sheikah, which in Breath of the Wild is literally the home of the Sheikah. And comparing to Twilight Princess's KAKARIKO village, they are nothing alike, as Twilight Princess had a very barren and western village compared to Breath of the Wild's. Tingle Island from the Wind Waker. Tingle Island can be found on one of the islands east of the Akala region. And when you approach this island, you'll notice it's much bigger and looks nothing like the one from the Wind Waker, as well as it's spelled differently and the fact that Tingle's brothers also have islands all south of Tingle Island. I'm sure this isn't the same island from the Wind Waker, but is in reference to Tingle and his brothers. Mercay Island from Phantom Hourglass. Mercay Island can be found as one of the islands in the Lanayru wetlands. Now obviously both islands are nothing alike and probably not even the same islands. The only similarity is probably that they share the same name, as well as a lot of other islands found in the Lanayru wetlands. Now this isn't really much of a comparison, but I just thought I'd show it off because I feel like this game has a lot of references to previous locations from Zelda games, but aren't actually the location itself or really refer to it. I mean, this could be what's left of the sea Link explored within Phantom Hourglass, but if you played Phantom Hourglass, you would know that that whole sea we explored probably never existed. And if you look at what's connecting the islands, it's not really much of a sea anymore. So even though they share the same name, I'm pretty sure these islands never existed. It was all but just a dream. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this little tour of how Hyrule has changed throughout the years. I had a lot of fun making this video and putting it together, and I really hope you guys enjoyed. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and if you did, be sure to leave a like on the video and let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Also, let me know if there's any other reference locations I might have skipped out on, or if you have any ideas of what to tackle in future videos. I've been ZeldaMaster, and I'll see you all in the next one.